Hello, my beautiful friends. I am Laurel Bleadon-Maffei with Illuminating Souls, welcoming you to this episode of Sleepy Bedtime Blessings, a podcast designed to help you rest, relax, and fall asleep, all while deepening in your connection with your beautiful team of angels who love you so. If we are meeting for the first time, hello. I am an angelic practitioner, a spiritual teacher, and an encourager of souls. And I have the most wonderful job. The work that I do is a dream come true. I help you connect with your angels and divine guidance and the dreams of your soul. And I do this through one-on-one angel sessions, which take place over the phone. They're an hour long. And we have heartfelt conversation, and I channel for you and bring forward messages from the angels to inspire your spirit. And I also offer soul mentoring, which is a longer, more consistent way that we can meet as you move through a time of growth or change. And then I also offer a variety of classes. I usually have something new coming to you about every 6 weeks or so. So I invite you to go over to my website, illuminatingsouls.com, where you can sign up for my mailing list. And then you will be in the know of everything that I have going on. But for now, the angels and I are here to help you come into a beautiful, soothing, calming place of rest. This podcast is a blend of two of my favorite forms of self-care: listening to a sleep podcast, which I do every single night, and also connecting with the angels. So this episode will have a bedtime story for you. I'll bring in the angels for you, and we'll be together for about an hour. And that's because that is my preference as a listener, to be able to drift into a 1-hour session, because usually within that hour I fall asleep. There are some podcasts out there that are designed for sleep, but they're only 20 minutes long, and I get anxious. Like, there's nothing worse than not being asleep when you want to be, and for me, hearing the end of an episode and still being awake sort of doubles down on my awareness that I am not sleeping yet. So that is why this episode will be an hour long. And just so you know, if it takes you longer than an hour to fall asleep, there are over 150 episodes in the archive that are free, and you can set up a playlist so you can string together your favorite episodes, and the angels and I can keep you company throughout the night or throughout the day. I know many of you listen to this podcast during your waking hours as well. So however you are guided to listen, it is my joy to be with you here and now. And so I invite you to take some nice deep breaths in and out, getting comfortable in whatever way works best for you. For me, when I get ready for bed, I love to snuggle up under the covers and plump the pillows up just so. And I put in my earphones. It doesn't bother me to sleep with them. They fall out eventually at some point during the night. And I pick a podcast episode to listen to. Right now I'm listening to The Sleepy Bookshelf, and Elizabeth, the host, is reading Emma which I have to say I am not loving the book, but I love her voice and the way she reads, so I'm continuing to give it a try. And I also listen to Get Sleepy. I just listened to one of their old episodes last night, which takes place in a bakery, which, like, is that not the best thing ever? An episode about a bakery. It's like, okay, two of my favorite things, bakeries and sleep podcasts, converge. If I knew how to do bakery-centric episodes for you, I would. Perhaps I can pen something with ChatGPT and we can create a series for you here. But that will not happen in this episode. So to cozy on up in whatever way works best for you. And we're going to be talking more about beds and bedding and sleep styles for our story time tonight, but we're not there yet. We're still in the part of the broadcast where I bring in the angels for you and wax poetic about the energies we are experiencing. So as I record this, we're at the end of May 2023. I do not know when you will be listening. Could be years from now. But in this moment in time, there's a lot going on energetically. I can't even give it a voice what it is, but I find myself in a perpetual state of fatigue, and it's like I'm waiting for something. There's this beautiful Osho's Tarot card called No Thingness. And it talks about that space of potency just before a new universe is created. And it feels like we are in this way station of sorts, this space in between, before the next thing comes. And I don't know what that is, but I feel as if I am waiting for it to happen. I will also share that there are a few things in my personal sphere that have me feeling uncomfortable and somewhat disappointed. It's nothing profoundly heavy, so I won't share with you what the details are. So it's nothing horrible or heavy. It's just life, right? There's a phrase from a book that I love. It says, life is life. Which is so simple, isn't it? But I'm in the midst of one of those moments of time where life is life. And sometimes life is easy and graceful. And listen, life is easy and graceful if I'm on the bell curve of what life could be. So I am not complaining. But I just have some of my stuff up. That's life, right? We get triggered. Our stuff comes up. God willing, we meet ourselves in a place of compassion and we connect with our spiritual toolbox to see what is up for healing. So there's a couple of things like that happening for me and maybe for you as well. So if there is something going on in your life that is causing you to feel uncomfortable or disappointed or worried or sad or any other experiences that we tend to not choose into, right? If we could choose, we would be happy and exuberant and light-filled and, right? We would choose the good stuff. But life is life. So I bring this all forward to remind you, and myself as well, that the angels are intimately aware of what is transpiring for you, and they are bringing you love. So let's take another deep breath in. and allow the love of the angels to join you here and now. And I'm going to invite the angels in to join us. They're already here, but I love sharing the ritual with you. And beautiful angels on high, I invite you to join us here. And I am so profoundly grateful for this opportunity to come together in divine sanctuary with our beloveds who are listening to this message. And angels, I ask that you infuse this broadcast with lightness of spirit, helping us pick our feet up off the ground and join you in the rarefied energy of the divine realms, where we can replenish, where we can attune, where we can breathe into a deeper state of grace and ease and joy and well-being. So just take a nice deep breath in and release. And the angels are here now. And they are bringing you waves of comfort and understanding. They ask you not to be too harsh with yourself. You are a multidimensional being, and incarnation here on the earthly realm is deeply complicated. We are in these physical bodies, in a physical dimension, and yet the greater part of us is non-physical. And so building bridges between the various aspects of our incarnation is not always easy, but it is something that we are always expanding into as we open our awareness and our consciousness to our greater spirit. So to breathe in and breathe in the true light of your essence, that you are an extraordinarily beautiful, vibrant being. And as you come into this beautiful, expansive awareness of your nature, of your true nature, resources and opportunities and healing and light flow to you to help you shift perspective, to help you come into a more vibrant awareness about your own path and experiences. So breathe in. There is a term that often comes forward, well, I guess not often, but when it comes forward, it makes me sit up and pay attention. And it comes forward every once in a while in an angel message, and it is the word capitulate. It's such a great word. And I hear the angels reminding us not to capitulate to the worst of our fears. Do not give in to the shadow that seeks to hobble you and keep you from the beauty of this life. That this life is not meant to be a reflection of perfection. This life is uncertain and messy and wondrous and magical and beautiful and challenging, and all of it. It's all of it. Life is everything. And you are a blessing. You are a beautiful and vibrant, wondrous being in the midst of your messy and imperfect and wondrous life. So take a breath, in this breath, knowing that you are beautifully alive, that you are here in this world, and this world is better because you are, because you exist, because you are drawing breath right now. And your angels are filled with so much love and admiration for you. Do not judge yourself as small or lost or without purpose. Sometimes we are just in that place of stillness, that no-thingness, right before the next breath. But to remember that the greater expanse of all that you are is always moving and growing and finding new portals filled with potential in life. And so take a breath in, and you have permission to rest. You do not have to be striving and seeking all the time. Sometimes you are in the process of becoming the expression of you that will be able to move forward gracefully in the areas of life that right now perhaps feel challenging. We are always evolving. We are always in movement, no matter how subtle or how dramatic. And so you have permission to rest, because rest is a profoundly important part of the cycle of creation. We are designed to require rest, whether that is the rest that we know of as sleep, or whether that is the rest that we know of in our waking life. You think of some of the world's religions that observe the Sabbath, or Shabbat, as we call it in Hebrew. Right, 24 hours out of every 7 days that are meant for restful contemplation and spiritual connection. And God willing, the sleep cycle we go into every 12 hours or so. So you have permission to rest. And while you rest, the angels will be with you. We replenish, we recharge. Our consciousness clears out somehow. It allows us to breathe and live our way into brighter tomorrows. I always believe in brighter tomorrows, even when I don't know how they will happen. I think I am a glass is half full kind of person by nature. I always believe that brightness is ahead, even if I do not know how it is going to happen. So, if you are experiencing places in life that feel uncomfortable right now, if you're in discomfort, if disappointment is with you because of one thing or another, lean into the love of your angels. They know exactly where you are and what you are going through, and they are here for you. They are here to help lift you up to help you find your way, to soothe and comfort you. So breathe. And you've got this. You've got this. Even if it doesn't feel like that's true. You've got this. And I affirm brighter tomorrows are flowing to you now. And in the meanwhile, I'm going to be here with you, keeping you company as we hang out in this liminal space, the in-between space. I'll tell you stories, and I'll keep you company, and I will remind you that you are loved, and you are precious, and you are worthy of love. So my beautiful friend, you cozy on up and snuggle on in. Drift off to sleep if that is your desire. And the angels will stay with you while I tell you a bunch of stories. So as I already alluded to, this story time is going to be about things sleep related. Beds, bedding, sleep styles. So a while back I did an episode called All My Sofas, where I track my life based on the sofas I had at the time. It was a fun episode to make, and it's actually one of my favorite to go back and listen to. So this one I will dub All My Beds. All My Beds. And there have been a lot of them. I'm 61 years old. There have been a lot of beds in my life. A lot of bedding. An evolution of my sleep style. And again, I don't expect you to be riveted by this. This is a sleep podcast after all. But it will be fun for me to make for you, and hopefully entertaining enough to keep you company while you drift off or go about your day. So I want to acknowledge that different parts of the world and different cultures have different sleep styles. Here in the US, we tend to sleep on mattresses, and back in the day on box springs and mattresses. I know some places sleep on futons or pads, or, there's different ways people sleep, but my recollections are going to very much be based in the US sleep style method. So why don't we start off in my earliest bed-related memory that must have happened somewhere between 2.5 years old and 3 years old. When I was 2.5, my sister was born. And I know at some point, whether that was right away when she was born or a few months later, perhaps, I don't know when exactly it happened, but I had been sleeping in my parents' room. So the home where we grew up, and actually the home was in our family for almost 60 years. So it is really the home that I always go to in my heart, and certainly spent many, many, many of my lifetime's sleeps in that house. There were 3 bedrooms. It would become 4 because my father would outfit the back porch into a room for me when I was 16 years old, but this is still earlier in life. So there were 2 bedrooms on the 2nd floor and 1 bedroom on the 1st floor. So when we were very young, my brother had a room on the 2nd floor, and my parents and I were in the other bedroom on the second floor. And I must have been in the crib because at some point I got moved into a big girl bed in my brother's room so that my sister, I'm assuming, could have the crib. So again, don't quite know when that happened, but it was somewhere in that age stage. And I remember not liking this at all. In my memory, I feel like it was the first night. And my mom was making a big deal that I was a big girl in the big girl bed. And I remember sort of getting tucked in with a stuffed animal or two, I don't know. And I remember just laying there thinking something weird might happen because I was sharing a room with a boy. So I had gender awareness at that age and just really not being happy about it. That is my first bed-related memory. And I do not know what happened after that. I'm assuming eventually I settled into it, but there are no cognitive memories of what happened after that. But I just have that one singular memory, which perhaps was many nights squished into one memory. I don't know. But at some point, when my sister was old enough, my sister and I would then share the bedroom my parents had been in on the second floor, and my parents moved down to the bedroom on the first floor, which was how it would be for the rest of our lives. So my brother had his own room, and my sister and I shared the other upstairs bedroom, and my parents would then be on the first floor. So at some point, toddler and childhood, I realized that I loved kind of creating a fortress for my bed. So I loved having all of the sheets tucked in really tightly. My father had been in the Air Force, and I think at some point he taught us how to make military corners on our bed, not in terms of being, a slave driver of how our beds should be made. Parents just teach us weird things all the time. And at some point, my father taught us about military corners on a bed, and that you should be able to have a quarter bounce on your bed. And so I seem to recall we spent all of this time trying to achieve that with our beds. But what I discovered was I loved sleeping in a bed if everything was tucked in really tight, like a pocket. It was an envelope. And I was the letter, right? Like I wanted to be in a really tightly tucked bed, and I wanted my stuffed animals all around me. So building this fortress almost when I slept. And I already shared with you in the stories about my father episode that my father would often sleep on the floor between my bed and my sister's bed, and we would tell stories until we would fall asleep. The other thing I remember is in their house, my mom would always have bedspreads on the beds. So she came from the generation where there was always a bedspread on the bed. So I hated making the bed because I found bedspreads to be unwieldy. I didn't know that word as a kid, of course. My mom always made the bed much better than I could. And my mom was such a sweet woman, and she was never really diligent about making us kids do our chores. So probably more often than not, my mom made our bed. I don't know that I did. And then as an adult, I realized that I did not have to have bedspreads. That was a revelation. That I could just have a comforter and pillows on my bed. And so once I hit my adult years, I have always just had comforters and pillows and sheets on the bed. And so I make the bed every morning because it's easy to do. All right, so that is my first bed-related memory. My sister and I each had a twin-sized bed, and it was our domain. Mine, I liked everything tucked in with lots of stuffed animals around me. I am going to skip over some of the beds. So, for instance, just quickly, I did go away to sleepaway camp where I did sleep in a bunk bed, and I thought it would be fun to have the top bunk, only to realize I cut myself off from the ability to just sit on my bed and put on my shoes, because if you're in the top bunk, you can't really do that. So I quickly saw the error of my ways, and from then on I would choose the bottom bunk if given a choice. I also went to a version of the camp where we slept on cots, I think, in sleeping bags. I had my fair share of sleepovers where we would sleep in our sleeping bags on a hard, cold tile basement floor. I think I had a Holly Hobby sleeping bag. I seem to recall it was yellow. You know, sort of that cool gold brown color tone of the 70s. And probably some other bed stuff interspersed there. But I'm going to fast forward us to the beds that were choices that I made in my adult life. But before we get there, I forgot there was one other childhood-related bed story I wanted to put in here. And that was what the bed became if I was sick. So, this is a weird thing. I was not a sickly child, but I often felt sick, so I didn't have to go to school. I don't want to say it was psychosomatic or I was a hypochondriac. I think now that I understand myself better, I think I was overwhelmed and anxious, and so I would get stomach aches from that. But I discovered early on that if I stayed home from school, this was especially when I was much younger, my mom was still a stay-at-home mom, that I would get to sleep in my parents' bed on the first floor during the day. And sometimes even my mom would bring the television into her room because we only had one TV. And I could watch TV in my parents' bed during the day, and my mom would bring me toast. Listen, I thought that was just about the best thing ever. That was the jackpot of childhood. So I also had to give a shout out to that of getting to sleep in my parents' bed for a sick day. And also, if I was scared as a kid, I would go downstairs in the middle of the night and crawl in my parents' bed between my parents. And I don't know that they liked it too much, but I loved that feeling of being, snuggled in their bed with them. Okay, so now we're going to move out of childhood, as I said, and let's come into adult bed choices. So when I moved to Los Angeles, I moved with my childhood twin-sized mattress and box spring and bed frame so that I didn't have to buy a mattress. So that's how I started out my adult life, in a twin-sized bed. At some point, I was like, I'm a grown-up now. I really should get a bigger bed. And I don't know why I didn't make the leap to a queen-sized mattress, but I got a full-size mattress, which is bigger than a twin but smaller than a queen. So for a really long time, I had a full, or it can also be called a double mattress. Again, a little bit bigger than a twin, but smaller than a queen, which was perfect for just one person. It was good for me. And my dog, when I got a dog, I had a boyfriend for a while, and we managed to fit into that bed, but it wasn't terribly roomy, but it worked. And so that was my bed reality for quite a long time. So that would have taken me through my different apartments in West Hollywood into my apartment that I shared with my cousin Susie. I still had my full-sized bed then. So in the last episode, where I was sharing about my dreams of Jeeps, I shared with you about my friend Keith. So Keith was a very generous, warm-hearted, fun guy. And at some point in our friendship, I went with him and his mom to go furniture shopping for Keith's apartment. And at the furniture store, so this would have been easily, it had to be the late 80s. If not, it was like right around 1990. At the furniture store, there was this humongous pine log king-sized bed. Each log was huge. And so it had the 4 posters and the headboard and the footboard, and then the rails, the logs of the rails that went along the top. It was like this giant playpen of a bed. It was beautiful. And I was like, Keith, you have to get it. He's like, I need to have it. I'm like, you do. This is the best bed ever. And I said, but let me just ask you something. I don't know if at any point you are ever going to grow tired of this bed. But when you do, can I have it? I was already negotiating to inherit his bed because I loved this bed. And he said, of course, yes, for sure. And so we had sort of decided that that was going to be the thing, that he would have this bed first, and then at some point it would come to me. And so sure enough, many things converged in 1994. For better or worse, many things converged. And I was getting ready to move to New York. I had lost my job at Pacific Arts. A lot of things had happened, and I got this job in Westchester County in New York, and I was going to move, and Keith was going through some life changes, and he was going to be getting rid of his bed that he had bequeathed to me. So, as all of my stuff is preparing to move to New York, Keith says, well, you can now come and get the bed. So I think somehow the movers went over to his apartment and disassembled the bed. I mean, the bed weighed hundreds of pounds. It was massive. And all my stuff gets shipped to New York along with Keith's bed, which is now my bed. So I also moved my full-sized bed to New York, so I would have a guest room. So with Keith's bed, I could either have purchased a California King sized mattress and box spring, or a king-sized bed, which is also known as a dual or Eastern King. The difference is a California King is longer and a bit more narrow and is a single box spring and mattress. The Eastern size or dual size King has 2 twin size box springs and then a big king size mattress. So the dual or Eastern King is wider. So it's 2 twin size beds put together. And I'm 5'6". So I didn't need more length, I just liked more width. So at that point, I made the strategic decision to go with the regular king-size bed. I mention this because in California, most people have California King beds. So that decision has kept me from being able to buy king-size sheets at Costco because they always have the Cal King So just a little aside, how weird decisions in your life can shift your future relationship with Costco purchases. But I digress. So I buy my mattress and box spring, and I guess the movers must have put Keith's bed together. It was massive. It took up the whole room, and it was solid. It didn't move when you jumped on the bed, and because it was high up off the ground, plus there was a mattress and a box spring, I'm exaggerating, but sometimes it felt like I had to take a running leap to get on the bed, which I loved. I loved being in this huge, cushy, beautiful bed. And also, somewhere around this time, I had discovered the Company Store, which is a Wisconsin-based retailer who specializes in comforters and pillows. And they had an outlet store in Kenosha, Wisconsin, which I loved the outlet stores in Kenosha, Wisconsin for a long, long time. And I would go there and I bought this massive, oversized comforter. It was marketed as such. It's not just a regular king-size comforter. It is an oversized king-size comforter. So you have plenty of blanket to go over the edge, and it was heavy. And I also discovered the joy of a body pillow. This is before body pillows were popular, but they advertised them in the Company Store catalog. And I remember they were expensive, and I had to have one. The image in the catalog was always of some beautiful woman like draped over the body pillow. And I had always created this buffer zone with my stuffed animals and pillows, and I thought, I am exactly who a body pillow was made for. And so I had segued at some point to these overstuffed comforters, body pillows, a gorgeous mattress, and this huge, enormous log bed. My bed was a palace in and of itself, and I was so happy in it. My dog had a hard time getting up on my bed, so at some point I bought a chest that she could step onto to get up onto the bed when she wanted to, but she more often than not would sleep on the floor. So that was my bed for a long, long time. And even when I moved back to Los Angeles a year and a half later, the bed came with me, as did the mattress and box spring. And then at some point, I got tired of it, because it's a lot of bed. Like you really had to be committed to this huge log bed. And my bedroom in Los Angeles was smaller. And I thought, okay, I think I'm ready. I think I'm ready to move on from this bed. And so I sold it on Craigslist. Some guy had wanted it for his daughter, and I said, but you're going to have to take it apart. It's really hard to put together and take apart. He said, it's okay, I can do it. And he came and got it. And at that time, one of the stores I loved so much was the Bombay Company. I don't know how many of you remember it. They've gone out of business. But they always had really beautiful things from different places in the world. And they had this beautiful metal bed, very simple, sort of poetic. And it's just really an ordinary bed frame and footboard. But I loved it. I thought it looked lovely. It'll work for me. And so I bought it. And that is still the headboard and footboard that we have in our room now. So I still have it. Good purchase, right? It's lasted many, many years. And at the time I was still into, the big box spring and the pillow top mattresses. So I still kind of had to leap up a little bit to get into the bed, but it worked. And again, still with all the covers. And really, I would be miserable in the summer because not only was it hot, but I couldn't sleep with covers on me. And I always loved to pile the blankets on. So also during this time, somewhere in the 90s, I fell in love with the whole shabby chic look, which was prints with big flowers on them. And so the Guess company, which we know for clothing, Guess clothing, they also had a home textile line at the time. And they had this beautiful bedding that I fell in love with. It was sort of an ivory background with sort of magenta big flowers on it. Like, I loved it. And it came with the duvet set, which was 2 pillow shams, the duvet and the dust ruffle. And then it came with a sheet set as well. And so I went all in. I loved it. And I still love it. It is still the duvet cover and the bed skirt on our bed now. But the sheets really, they didn't last that many years. So I don't have them anymore. But that is still the bedding on my bed today. And then probably, 6 or 7 years ago, my husband and I shifted away from the mattress and box spring and went Tempur-Pedic. So this was a huge shift in our bed philosophy. And I don't know how many of you have slept on a Tempur-Pedic mattress or something similar to it, but they are amazing. And one of the things about my husband and I, when we are shopping for big ticket items, and I think I've shared this with you before, my husband is of the philosophy, you spend what you need to spend, and you get the best you can so that it'll last. And I have always lived my life like I'm a girl on a budget, and so I always try to get the lowest price good thing that I can, if that makes sense. And so often when we're making these big purchases, my husband leans into something that is more expensive than I am comfortable with. And as I've shared with you before, the rule of my marriage is my husband is always right just because he is. He's a smart guy. And so I usually will acquiesce to him, and he doesn't listen to me when I'm like, we should get something that's less expensive, because more often than not, I'm wrong. So we went shopping for a mattress because the thing with the box spring and mattresses is, when one person moves or gets up to go to the bathroom, it can cause the disruption for the other person in the bed. And the Tempur-Pedics don't do that. So we go shopping and, there's different levels of Tempur-Pedics, right? There's the baseline model up to the more expensive ones. And so, of course, I'm like, the baseline, it's going to be fine. And they take us over to a much more expensive model. And my husband's like, just get on it. And of course I got on it. And it was the most comfortable thing I had ever experienced in my life. And my husband says, we're going to get this one. And then we also opted into the one that raises the bed or the foot of the mattress if you wanted to, right? So it's an adjustable bed. The one thing we did regret is we didn't get it where each side is adjustable. So you sort of have to have a split mattress to do that. So either we both go up or we both go down. And that has turned into be, it's not really an issue, but just something we wish we had done a little differently, because I typically like to sleep tilted up a little bit, but my husband, that hurts his hip and his shoulder. So we sleep with a mattress flat. but we have both loved this mattress. It has been the most comfortable mattress I've ever experienced in my life. And probably within the next few years, we're going to need to replace it. And we will continue to go with a Tempur-Pedic. I know there's other places that do those kinds of mattresses now. Here in the U.S., we've got Casper and Purple and these different companies. But this is my testimony that this Tempur-Pedic mattress has been worth every penny, even though I did not feel that way at the time. And I love our bed. So I've got the big comforters. To this day, I sleep with a body pillow from Company Store. And I even have a spare one put away in case something happens. Like, I don't know what could happen that would eradicate the ability to get another body pillow. But I wasn't going to take any chances because during the pandemic, the Company Store was offering less items. Like there weren't as many things available in their catalogs. And I thought, oh no, are they doing away with their body pillows? Because I know other people make body pillows, but at least since the 90s, I have been sleeping with a Company Store body pillow. And so I bought a spare and a spare cover just in case, that I have put away now. Again, I don't know what is going to show up that would require an emergency body pillow, but I am prepared. I have a contingency backup body pillow and cover put away. The other thing I will share about our bedding choices is we always sleep with flannel sheets, no matter what season it is. My husband loves flannel sheets. So I would be okay going over to, a cotton sheet during the summer, but my husband loves flannel so much that's what we do. I think it's one of the lovely things about, for me at least, being married to my favorite person in the world, is we get to sort of give in on these things that make the other person happy. So my husband loves flannel sheets, so flannel sheets it is. I will say I also tried a weighted blanket before. I still have it in a closet somewhere. I got a 15-pound weighted blanket, but I found it didn't really work for me. It kind of hurt my hips a little bit. So now, in the winter, especially when it's cold, my husband and I don't sleep with the heat on. And we're in Northern California. It's not as if it gets to 85 degrees below zero here in a cold winter's night. It might get down into the 30s. And our house might be 57 degrees or something by the, early hours of the morning. So we pile on the blankets. And I love that because it's a form of a weighted blanket. I crochet. And so I have lots of Afghans. So come the winter time, I start piling on the Afghans and the blankets. And I love it. It is my favorite time of year to sleep. But now it's getting warmer here, and I'm not so crazy that I run the air conditioning so that it's 57 degrees at night. That would just be wasteful. And so I find I get hot more often than not, and I kick off the blankets, and I don't sleep as well. But that's okay, right? Life is life. Life is life. Seasons change, we change, bedding changes. So I'm still somebody that likes to have the covers tucked in. It's so funny because I think we all have our own sleep styles, right? Like every once in a while you see somebody on social media or something, and I see that some people sleep where nothing is tucked in. They sort of do the burrito roll with their blankets, and I just think it's so sweet that over time, throughout life, we get to develop our own sleep style, our own sleep environment. So perhaps this invites you into contemplating the evolution of your own sleep environment. What works for you? How do you fall asleep best? How many covers do you like to have? I know one thing that's different here in the US, we typically sleep with top sheets. And I think in the UK, they don't. They sleep with duvets. I don't know. So I know that we all sleep a little differently. It's such an intimate thing, right? Whatever your sleep environment is. The kinds of sheets you like, the pillows, the comforters, the kind of mattress that you sleep on. My hope, my wish for you is that your sleep environment is just what you want it to be. And if it isn't yet, that it will be soon. Because we all deserve a good rest, a good night's rest. So here's to our beds. Here's to our beautiful, wondrous beds. Or whatever surface we sleep upon. And so I am just in very deep gratitude for my many, many beds, all my beds throughout my life, whether it was my parents' bed that helped me feel safe and cozy, whether it was that massive, huge log king bed that I had from my friend, or whether it's the Tempur-Pedic that I get to share with my favorite person on the planet, my husband. I just think it's the loveliest thing. So I love bed. I love sleep. And I am glad to share the sweetness of this with you. So thank you for letting me share this wandering, rambling story time with you. I love you very much, and I wish you the sweetest of dreams. We'll talk again soon. Thank you.